and we will be discussing the issues of our cultural values. Culture is the customary beliefs, social forms, and material traits of racial, religious, or social group. So we are living in accordance to our culture. We have our set of cultures as Filipino. There is no society that doesn't have culture. And through culture, the existence of the members of the society became more meaningful with a purpose. Although culture and cultural heritage serves as distinguishing mark of the Filipino people, there has been issues and concerns concerning acceptable cultural values and practices. So these are the topics that we are going to discuss in this lecture video. The cultural values issues, the Filipino indolence. Do you know what that means? And do you have that values or attitude? Ningas-Cugon attitude, Manana habit, Bahala Na, Indulging in gambling, Hiya complex, Amor Propio, the Suerte and Malas, the existence of spirits, ghosts, etc., the Gaya-Gays Practice, and karma. So without further ado, let us discuss the first cultural values, the Filipino cultural value, which is the Filipino indolence. So look at that photo. Are you like that sometimes? So what is indolence? Indolence is avoidance of activity or exertion or laziness. And Jose Rizal said, Filipinos in general are indolent people. If that was his observation before, then we didn't change. We are still like that. Or most of the people are like that still. There are Filipinos who do not care of their future. And many children and adolescents could be found in the internet cafes, in corner places, hanging around most of the time, instead of doing household chores or helping their family members, or learning or reading or doing something productive. And there are also parents or adults who are just outside counting the vehicles that passes by on the street or just talking, not doing something productive. A standby or idler today are being arrested by the police. That was, if you remember, that was President Duterte created an order on that, pandakpo ng mga standby. But this strategy by the government to prevent criminal activities are being legally questioned. Okay, look at that editorial art. Poverty and just waiting for the government subsidies. So like the typical Juan Tamad, just waiting for the fruit to fall on his mouth. During this COVID-19 crisis, what have you observed? Do you know someone who is manifesting this trait? Are you somehow manifesting this trait, or do you know someone, a family member, or your neighbor? Okay, next attitude is Ningas-Cugon. What is Ningas-Cugon? So by that picture, at the beginning, Filipinos are very eager and ready to do and finish a work. But after some time, they become complacent and lazy at the end. So, in Tagalog, masipag sa simula, pero tamad sa huli. Sa Bisaya, mayra sugod, mura og relasyon. Mayra sa sugod, pero pagdugay na, dili na pariha sa katong naninguha pa? Or what? Okay, next is manana habit attitude. This is very familiar. When you say manana habit, tomorrow, ugma ra. So the tomorrow attitude or procrastination attitude. The people set aside their work for tomorrow when they can already do today. So like homework, magkuhan sa Facebook or social media or whatever, mabawi kami sa finals. If you can do it now, then do it now. But again, it's very difficult because it has become our part of us, and this can be diminished if we have self-discipline. Okay, bahala na attitude. Ang ibig mong sabihin, hindi mo sinusulat ang plano mo, paano ka magsasucceed niyan? Sipag at yaga, bahala na si Batman. This is a kind of fatalism in which the person leaves everything to fate. When you say fatalism, it is something that cannot be changed anymore. Like it has been a part of the system. He lets fate control his destiny and decide his success. This term comes from Bahala Na, which means that God will take care of everything. Because the Tagalog, our God is Bathala. That was before. We call our God Bathala. Indulging. So, how does it become an issue? It becomes an issue because we can design our own destiny. So daghang mga Filipinos na they don't plan ahead because they just leave it to fate. But that is slowly changing, I think, now because of the media influences. Young people are getting inspired. They want to do something. So they're becoming more self-disciplined. But this still exists. Indulging in gambling. So, magsugal. No, si ate, nagbingo si ate. One of the Filipinos' favorite pastime which poses more negative effects than positive ones. A recent UCLA study does suggest that gambling has its roots in traditional Asian culture. It's that Chinese, in particular, are said to hold strong beliefs in luck, fate, and chance concepts that many Filipinos, given China's strong historical influence in the Philippines, and even now the Chinese in the Philippines are still into gambling, the pogo issues and all that. So we got that culture somehow from the Chinese. Many would, however, justify gambling as just a form of recreation, a harmless pastime, as if the amounts they've already lost for wagering haven't already cost them a fortune. And not just a fortune, money and time. And the hard-earned money should have gone to more productive pursuits like saving. And instead of making use of the money to save or to invest in a more profitable and secure investment, mausik ang kwarta sa gambling. And when you gamble, you don't know. It's just a roundabout, a carousel. You win and you lose. So that's an issue. Hiya complex. So we are mahiyain. Ulawan jud ta. This is an uncomfortable feeling of being found in an unacceptable position or uncomfortable feeling of doing something not socially acceptable or accompanied by a feeling of shame or embarrassment. So I don't need to explain further because I know that you can relate to this. We can relate to this. It is stronger when dealing with authority figure. We don't want to speak up, especially if higher ang kastorya or kaatubang nato. When hiya is given too much importance, it becomes a threat to progress, and that becomes an issue. So instead of, especially if you have a business, or you have your own business, you will not progress if you are mahiyain. So a feeling of confidence and personal worth can reduce the hiya complex. Nowadays, I think it's slowly diminishing, but still, we still have this. Amor Propio. What is Amor Propio? Look at her. She loves herself, which is good. So this is associated closely with hiya. So it is a Spanish term meaning self-love or self-esteem, the fear of losing social acceptance. So like self-love is good, but not to a point na you need to be socially accepted. Like you have to do things to be socially accepted. So sometimes it becomes bad because you don't have the uniqueness or you don't stand your principle because dili parehas sa uban. So once a person has attained social acceptance, he will do everything to keep that status. A person will certainly feel hurt and insulted if the criticism is directed against those qualities that he holds dear or has value to him. So, yeah, but again, self love is good, but if it is connected with social acceptance, like you have to do this kay maulaw ka if dili nimo buhaton kay maulaw ka unsay istorya sa silingan or unsay istorya sa pamilya nimo or something like that. But you need to know what is good and what is bad. But if it hinders your progress, then you have to think it all over again. Okay, lagay and areglo. So, kanang mga hatag-hatag kay para makakuan, ma-approve ang loan or unsa pa dira. So these are established social political connections for some material consideration to be able to obtain favors. One example is kanang sa mga customs. So tagaan og pilagay, tagaan og kwarta or something valuable para ma-approve ang ma-accept ang ipadala. So it is very common in the customs area. So kamo, these negative practices often occur in government offices where special privileges and favors may be obtained in return for which certain considerations are exchanged. Palakasan scheme. This is also very common here, especially sa mga government offices, government hiring. Di bawal, pero di dapat. So obtaining a job, getting a promotion transfer, and other special privileges and favors done in palakasan. So daghan na, and I have experienced that when I had my volunteer work in provincial hospital. So there are many volunteers there who've been working as a volunteer for 2 years, and they applied as a regular staff. They've been volunteering for 2 years pero wala pa sila na hire or na permanent. And here comes a relative of such politician. 2 months ra siyang, 2-3 months lang na nag-volunteer and then na regular staff na siya. Dili ka malain aron. So that's a palakasan scheme. This scheme is manifested in a society where there is strong family ties and the influence of power and wealth. Or kani kay kumpare, anak isa kong kumpare or something like that. The use of euphemistic expression. Wow, your face is unique. So what is euphemistic expression? It's stating an unpleasant opinion, truth, or request as pleasantly as possible to please another person so as not to directly hurt his ego. So dili kita makaprangka. We somehow swerve mo liko sa taas atong istorya para dili kayo masakitan. It is sometimes called white lies. So, to avoid direct confrontation, one uses the euphemistic expression like tsaka na lang, unya ra, bisag koan, dili good, let's say na ihangyo, and then dili ka kabalipad, sumin lang ka nga, unya ra, pero at the back of your mind, no, I will not, nganyang dili na lang mo prangka, no? So that becomes an issue. Kaya mag-expect ang koan, umuhang kasturya. Okay lang, even if dili, marahil, perhaps, so like, koan, middle koan lang siya. Siguro nga, could be, or bahala na. Next, the Suerte, Tadhana, Malas, and Buena form of fatalism. So, fortune teller. There are beliefs in faith, predestination, in horoscope, and hula or fortune telling. This fatalism still persists today when a Filipino accepts with resignation and tolerance his pain and frustration. These undesirable values can be minimized if parents, teachers, and elders emphasize to the individual the value of hard work and savings by personal achievement. That environment can be controlled and that life is what we make it. We design our own future, our own life. Dili na siya pre-designed. We designed it ourselves. That's why we study, because we want to be, say, come on, you are studying because you want to be a seaman or a captain in the future. So you know your goals and you know the steps to achieve that goal. Dili kay mora man gud ni, wala ni kitadhana nako. Or malas, wala ko nadawat, gimalas magud ko. No, maybe because you lack the skills or the confidence or what. So you have to improve yourself. Okay, next, existence of spirits, ghosts, and supernatural beings. So that is very common in Sikihor. I've lived in Sikihor for a year as well, and I've been going back and forth every other month before COVID crisis. I love Sikihor. This is very common, the beliefs in the spirits and supernatural being. Actually, with this, I will explain it later. So the beliefs on these unseen beings still persist in our thoughts, and we imagine them to be existing in this material world. Many people believe that spirits possess supernatural powers, and so we pray to them, offer food to the anitos and anitas so that they will not harm us or bring bad luck to our activities. Sometimes we ask the spirits to cure our illness and to provide us safety, good harvest, and luck. Most of these beliefs and values are already deeply rooted in our culture. Actually, I don't really see, well, it becomes an issue if you rely on the supernatural beings. But for me, in my opinion, in my belief, I believe that there are supernatural beings, there are spirits, because scientifically, we only see 1% of what is in our world. Like 1%, we only see in our eyes the 1% of what is in our world. And science also is um, slowly accepting this because of the new science called quantum physics. And quantum physics explained the vibrations of the things that we cannot see. The vibrations, the frequency. It explains it there, and that science explains the existence of the supernatural beings or the unseen. The Gaya-Gaya Practice, kaya makita ninyo sa inyong silingan, na magtukod og sari-sari store ang silingan, nakita nga kuan, daghang abot, halin, magtukod sad ang tapad. So actually, this is also the same with the tempurahan. So na nagtempura linya dira, dayon taparan sad, that is Gaya-Gaya Practice. It is good and it is bad. Generally, imitation is not bad per se because it is one form of learning, especially if there is a good model to imitate. On the other hand, it has a negative value if it indicates lack of creativity, imitativeness, pioneering spirit, or as a consequence of timidity to go into a new field of endeavor and rely on just mere imitation. Wala na kay sense of uniqueness or creativity, kay mosuhid ra ka. So that becomes a bad practice. It does not bring good result to individuals' ingenuity and resourcefulness, especially if mukompetensya ka niya. And lastly, karma. I actually believe in karma because one of my mantra is the golden rule. Do unto others what you want others to do unto you, and don't do unto others what you don't want others do unto you. So this painting specifically explained that if you harm someone, it will really go back to you. If magpasakit ka sa imong family or loved ones, imong girlfriend or boyfriend, it will go back to you really, and it has been proven. So if ganahan kang mo-cheat, if mo-cheat ka, mag-andam na lang pod na mabalusan ka. So if dili ka ganahang mag-cheatan ka sa imong loved one, ayaw na lang to cheat because you don't want to experience how they felt. Dili lalim ang masakitan. Samot na sa gugma. So karma, the law of nature. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. It's actually in science, but it is also in karma. Kung ano ang itinanim, siya rin ang aanihin. If you do harm to others, that harm goes back to you. So think first before doing something.